Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Remote Work Life Summit. I've got a great guest and somebody who I've admired for a very long time, somebody who's helped me with my career, although he didn't know about it. I have Lukasz Zelezny with me today. Lukasz is an SEO consultant. He's also a former director for organic acquisition with Uswitch and Zoopla. He's had very senior SEO roles, and he's a consultant at the moment, as I said. He's also a speaker as well, so he's spoken at pretty big SEO events, Brighton SEO. He's also talked at Ungagged, Search London, and he's a Search Awards judge, and he's very well known in the industry, and I had to get him on here today. Lukasz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for such a nice introduction. It's a pleasure and honor to be with everyone, with you, Alex, and it's very nice to hear that I've been able to help you with your SEO career, and yeah, that's something really important for me. So thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, and I think, Lukasz, that's why I wanted to have you on, because one of the things that I recommend to people is that when they're either looking to transition into a new field, if it's SEO or whatever it may be, or even if they're in SEO and they're looking to level up, they should always find somebody to follow who knows what they're talking about, especially where SEO is concerned, because there are so many people who profess to know about SEO. And that's what I did with Lukasz. And Lukasz, the information that Lukasz provided online and through some of his videos enabled me to transition from somebody who taught themselves SEO into becoming a team manager in SEO. So that's the power of actually following somebody, finding somebody who you know, and really somebody who you can trust, and really understanding what they do. And today I want to pick Lukasz's brains to find out how he got into SEO. Lukasz, I think that's where we could actually start. Lukasz, how did you tell us about your journey?
Okay, so it's a bit unusual journey, but I think mostly people in SEO, pretty much everyone have a bit unusual journey. Back in the day when I was teenager, I was really into music. I'm still very into music. And I wanted, that was like 2099 and so on, those days. And, drum and bass, which is still very popular in UK, was a very niche music in Poland. And we were feeling like, like a special secret society that was music. Because in Europe, you had mostly like electro and techno. And I've been born in a relatively small town, and there was no clubs that been giving me opportunity to play my tracks, because I was composing my own tracks. And I was thinking like, okay, maybe I will create a website. And I knew HTML since I think 1996, when I was then doing some basic stuff. So then IRC and so, and all the forums, boom, and I created my website. And then I was thinking like, how can I get the traffic? So then, there was no Google Analytics. There was something what we had in Poland, Stat for You. It was a very simple statistic. It's pretty much what cPanel right now is providing you, a very, very simple statistics, but good enough those days. And I started thinking how to get better. I started reading whatever I could find something, and so on and so on. And then, when I finished studies, I had this kind of crisis. I didn't know what to do with my life a bit. And I moved to Zakopane, which is like on very southern Poland. It's a kurort city. There is lots of this kind of what you would say today Airbnb. Those days they were saying pensions, or like kind of little boutique hotels. And I joined there a small agency, and I started doing website design and SEO. And in 2007 I moved to UK. And I started from a very small company, and then I remember I found my next job after digging through Gumtree, which right now these days probably is a bit unusual to find a good job on Gumtree. I've been lucky, and then slowly I was moving through all these steps. up to Uswitch, where I was 6 years. Then after acquisition, Zoopla bought Uswitch. I was like Uswitch Zoopla. I was managing team of 10. And yeah, this end of last year, I decided to move for my own.
Sounds good. And it's, well, it's in some ways reflects my own journey from the perspective of when I was looking to get into SEO. I set up my own website and I was trying to get traffic to my website and trying to figure out how to do that and do it in a way that was organic and do that in a way that was safe and, you know, complies with the Google algorithm, all that sort of thing. So
this is very interesting part, complies with Google algorithm.
I tried.
Yeah, this is something like lots of people who are serious in SEO on some stage, an early stage in the career, had to learn about that, you know, unique. But yeah, sorry for interrupting. Go on.
No, not at all. And I think some of the things that I when I look back now, I mean, we're looking back like 10 years ago. Some of the things that we did back then are a bit of a no-no right now. What you call, I suppose, black hat SEO back then.
Well, I think it's great to have archive.org, because then you can go back to your old website and see what you was doing 10 years, 20 years ago. And yeah, you know, this is a journey. We are all having an amazing journey.
Absolutely. And yours has been amazing as well. And I think that's important. And I think you have to enjoy that journey. And like I said, things have changed across that journey. And how do you think, Lukasz, things have, where SEO and search is where we're talking about SEO and search, how do you think things have changed over the last, say, 5 years? And why did you actually start? I mean, so you fell into SEO, and how have things changed?
Well, you know, like I think SEO is a pretty much mature discipline, I would say. You know, it's absolutely obvious that often companies need a solid, especially mid-sized to large-sized companies, need a solid SEO department. When I was working in Uswitch Zoopla, there was 10 of us. Plus, also there were some agencies which were doing some specific stuff. And 10 years ago, it was very often like you would say, oh, yeah, by the way, SEO, yeah, we have this guy who is doing IT, you know, he can do this.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, the same with Twitter. I remember when one of the company owners said like, yeah, Twitter, my son will come next week. He will do this, and we sorted. People have much better understanding that I always saying this. SEO is a marathon, not a sprint. And it can be a very long marathon and very exciting, sometimes frustrating, but you know, this is how it is. It's a very long run and need to be planned on many stages. Ideally, when the company is thinking about SEO from day one, but obviously there is lots of old companies that have lots of legacy problems, but there is lots of opportunities for this kind of companies to come on the board and unlock hidden potential because of some problems with website, because of nobody was doing log analysis, because no one was ever checking page speed. You know, this little bits and bobs that for me and you is something like a daily bread, but these people not always are thinking about this. These people don't have resources, these people don't have a department, these people don't have employees who are thinking about these problems. And I even met with a couple of SEOs who are like, it's definitely not an ego problem. They are thinking like, this is so obvious that they are kind of frustrated that people don't know about this. And I'm like, that's why you have a job. This is why you have a job. You are the person to go there and explain what is crawl problems, what is, you know, on-page stuff that need to be sorted, and so on and so on and so on.
And you say SEO is a marathon and not a sprint, and it's got different parts to it, hasn't it? Different sort of. It's quite a complex thing in some ways, in the sense that.
Go on.
In the sense that it's got all those different parts that have to work together in order for the website to actually move in the direction that you want it to go. But do you, I mean, given that, and the number of people perhaps you need working on, or the number of different um, areas that you need to work on, do you think that SEO is a compatible area for, you know, a remote career?
Oh, this is absolutely fantastic opportunity for a remote career. So the way how I work at the moment as a consultant, I can be wherever I want. I have a meeting like we have right now through the phone, through the Zoom or through Hangouts, and you know, I'm in touch with internal teams of the companies. I'm checking the strategy. I'm getting notification. I'm making sure that everything is up to date with the current trends or current situation inside the oldest rules regarding to SEO. And you know, sometimes the big organization are doing things the same way because they were doing this for last 10 years. In SEO, you sometimes need to take a pivot and turn 100 to 180 degree. But answering your question about working remote, it's a perfect opportunity because I'm often in Poland, I'm often in India, where my wife is from. I'm often traveling through Europe for a speaking opportunities, and I can connect. I can have my meeting. I have my headphones. I have my microphone, and that really works. And then obviously additional contact is through email. And you know, I know lots of freelancers who are rather hands-on, and they are working sometimes from sunny Thailand or
Nice.
you know, Indonesia, and where they kind of migrated for 3 to 6 months from Bali. My good friend was working for last 3 months from Bali, I think, and then he moved to Malaysia for 3 months to Kuala Lumpur, and he's an SEO, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, what a life!"
What do you like? I
I
mean, what do you like about the remote working lifestyle? What do you like about it?
This is what I wanted to say. I am not at the moment in Thailand. I'm in Dagnam, uh, but it's also almost as good as Bali. So I like this piece, and first of all, and the second of all, I like the fact that I'm not wasting time for commuting. This is absolutely killing me. Commuting, you know, and think about this. I've been quite lucky because I haven't had to use for many years underground, which is making me even more depressed. Have you seen most of the time what you see through the window?
Oh yes,
You know what
yes.
I mean? Nothing. I feel like you know, like someone. Maybe this is a claustrophobia, but yeah, like I'm not a big fan of commuting. I like these long journeys, like for conference to Manchester, Liverpool, or take a plane and fly somewhere. But every day commuting in 1.5 hour return, for example. And I know people who are commuting 2 or 2.5 hour. Multiply by 5 days, working days, multiply by 50 or whatever weeks, multiply by 20 years. You're wasting so much time. This is not worth. So I like this freedom, and I like this flexibility. I like the fact that, you know, I can have a break between meetings, which I'm normally organizing through the Hangouts. I can go to prepare a coffee for myself. I can go for a little walk to the park, which is right after my garden. And you know, this is beautiful. And first of all, you know, I have a little daughter, as you know, I told you, and I can see how she's growing, and I can say I can stay with my wife and participate in the family life on the much higher level.
No, I hear all that because I've got my children as well, and it's kind of it's changed my life and my perspective on, you know, how work should be done and all those things that you say. I've travelled that London Underground as well, so I know exactly what it's like looking out the window at nothing, at black space,
Exactly.
black empty space. So no,
And you know, like, it's good at the time. It's good at the time. I was living in Battersea for 5 years, you know, and it was great. You know, I could see like London, like at Big Ben and Westminster pretty much from my balcony. But yeah, you know, it was everywhere close. I had a electric bike that I was commuting from Battersea to Suffolk, 20 minutes, just like that. But you know, when I moved to Dagenham and I had to travel 1.5 hours, I was like, know that that's probably too much. And I really appreciate and I really kind of adore this way of living, and working.
And so if anybody's listening, I mean, who, I suppose there's two categories of people. There are those people who are already in a role that is either SEO or SEO related, or they're completely new to SEO. I suppose this is two questions in one. How do you make that transit? If you are experienced in some related work experience and you want to transition to a remote role in SEO, how would you recommend for them to do that?
I think it would be pretty hard to do transition straight from whatever you were in before. Now I will start SEO and I will be remote. Unfortunately, the person who will do this may quickly fall into this pattern of doing something that is not pretty valuable, doesn't give results, doesn't give effect. This is this misconception of SEO. Sometimes I meet talking with people that people are thinking that SEO is something that you can learn in 30 minutes and that's it. It's definitely not. So if this is if a person who wants to pivot career have an opportunity to survive on slashing a massive chunk of the salary, because this is what we're talking, and this person probably would need to start as an SEO executive, if not SEO intern or SEO kind of junior SEO executive, then it's worth to join a company, potentially an agency, because agency is like a meat grinder. It's like, oh, it's busy, chop, everything. And this is good. You're just jumping into the very deep water and either you will drown or you will start swimming. And this, I know it's a brutal example, but then, at least spend 2-3 years in this kind of environments. And after that, you are in a much, much better position to start moving into remote job. And then obviously, it also depends which part of the world you are living or you want to live remotely. And I'm clearly referring right now into the cost of living. There is a website called Numbeo. And you can compare two cities. So obviously, I mentioned India. When you're moving to India, if you have an opportunity, if you have like I have family, and you want to do a remote job from India, you can spend much more time into, dealing hands-on, doing a couple of clients on the freelance basis. Because let's say if you will earn $2,000 a month on this freelance, you really sort it, because cost of living is relatively low. Mm-hmm. But if you have a mortgage, or you want to have a mortgage, you want to have a house, you want to live in London, or you want to rent a flat somewhere in the center of London, let's be honest, you cannot potentially only think about being hands-on, because you don't have enough hours in a day. You understand? You need to target much more senior role as your service. So you should position yourself more strategically as someone who is more into managing the SEO program and so on, rather than making things hands-on.
Mm-hmm. And what stack of skills do you think, Lukasz, are important for today's SEO?
My math. I just saw that there is lots of people struggling with very simple math, and like percentages, calculation, understanding how to compare KPIs, how to compare, let's say, growth year over year, month over month. What's the different meaning of growth month over month, year over year? I know that someone will say, like, hold on, Lukasz, this is more like analyst job. Well, you really need to defend your position in many situations, and say like, listen, maybe you don't see the results, but hey, here is a dashboard, and you can see that your revenue went up by X%, and right now, instead of doing £1 million, you're doing £1.5 million. Mm-hmm. This kind of things. And I could see that in my last 15 years. I met lots of people that often were struggling with these things, and like I know that very often there is like we don't need to use this calculation and so on and so on. But it's good to refresh that. Excel, definitely Excel. That's another skill which is absolutely a must. Ability, the soft skills. A person who is own boss is in fact not own boss, as many bosses as clients he have or she have.
Mm-hmm.
People are very often saying like, "Oh, I'm my own boss." I'm like, well, to some point, you have 10 clients, they are technically working as your bosses and they can fire you much quicker than if you would be working as an employee for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. These personal approaches, clear communication, making sure you're not bombarding them with emails every day just to show that you working, just making this communication on the right level, and I think the kind of having a low ego and always be ready to learn, because being too pride, it will never help. We always need to read, we always need to learn. There is plenty of people who are maybe like 15 years younger, and they will join this market and so on and so on. People are trying different things, they are getting better, so everyone needs to learn, and potentially this is what makes SEO so exciting. And in a nutshell.
No, that's good. That's a good summary. And if, let's say, for example, if somebody was applying, just imagine for a moment somebody's applying for a role to you, and they're sending you their resume, and you've got, I don't know, you've got two or three different resumes all lined up side by side.
Mm-hmm.
What would make one SEO stand out to you from another?
If I would like to work with this person remotely, or?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you see, if someone would send me a CV, I would first take a look if that person was had some solid start. So I'm looking 2 positions in a company that is not like 1 or 2 like super small company, or I created a freelance on beginning of my career. Rather looking something that I can find something online, or ideally a big agency, and like 1.5 year here, 1.5 year here, altogether 3 years. Person started, let's say, right after studies, 22 plus 3 years, 25 or 26, and we're moving to remote work. I have an example of one of my friend is much younger than me. He's probably 26, and I have absolutely no doubts that he's ready to move to work remotely. And then obviously, when I see CV like that, then I would like to have a conversation, like we have right now. I like to understand what personality that person have, and so on and so on, and potentially some basic kind of questions. Sometimes you can ask, for example, why redirection chain is not a good thing, and you may heard because people are frustrated of the fact that they're waiting long. This is absolutely not the right answer. And you can easily identify who was really working hard through this last 3 years, and who need to spend a bit more time on SEO, because when you're moving remotely and you're finding customer, there is obviously you need to learn more, but there is customer really want you to be spot on. I have website, I have a problem, I have a business which I want to put on the next level. Can we start to work? Here is money. And and there is like no time for excuses, buts, and so on.
And one of the things that I've seen on 1 or 2 different job descriptions, in fact there are a couple of things, but one of the main things is having a portfolio of work, perhaps, or even a website that somebody can refer to. Do you think either of those are important to convince somebody like yourself?
Yeah. So what convinced me a lot is when someone have a website with his own name or surname, maybe even personalized email. I really like when someone have, let's say, name at surname.uk or name at surname.com. So for example, john at smith.com or john at smith.uk. And I'm saying about this not because I'm using this for more than 10 years, but I can see this also in different areas of people who are working remotely. There is a website which, let's say, there is like uh, again, like John Doe, yeah, johndoe.co.uk, and you can go there. You can see photo of John Doe, couple of landing pages, what John Doe was doing, couple of logos, and so on and so on. And if you see this email, which is like a professional, correct, like a name at surname,
Yep.
rather than cowboy.
Yahoo.
Yeah, Cowboy25 at Hotmail, then
Hotmail,
yeah.
wow.
I remember that I heard at least one situation that someone, did I lost you? No, I didn't.
I've got you still.
Yeah, that someone was not invited for an interview because of the email. What was that? An email was like absolutely horrible. But yeah, that's are these little elements that really makes this successful. And then it's very important, the other side. So the candidate need to understand, need to be very conscious where this candidate is applying. What I'm trying to say is that it's a completely different expectation, service, and product if you will go through Fiverr or People Per Hour or others, and completely different if you are looking for a solid project that you will be handling for that amount of money, for that amount of time, and with that amount of expectation.
Mm-hmm.
If you really think seriously to be a remote worker, you probably don't want to fall into this micro working pattern. Again, like I'm the last one to just kind of try to build like a boxes or whatever. But you can see that this micro working is very popular in countries with a relatively low cost of life, because that micro working, you're spending lots of time on this, and this is the same what I was saying before, and earning, let's say, $10 or $15 a day, that's more than enough to survive, to pay bills, and so on and so on. I really respect my micro workers because I have a couple of, but I also understand that someone who is living in London would not be able to compete with these people. And this is very important to say. So that this consciousness of what is my target, where are my targets, who I want to work with, how I want to charge, in what model, and so on.
No, that's good advice, and I think lots of people may follow. They approach their search or their career quite sporadically instead of going after, like you said, a certain target. They're planning, like you said, your cost of living. Where are you going to be living? How much do you need to earn? How much experience do you have? And it all builds on one on top of another. If you're trying to build a solid career and take your journey from point X to point Y, you need to understand the steps in between that to get to that
exactly. Absolutely. I can also say that some people were asking me during my time in Uswitch why you are speaking so much on the conferences and so on and so on and so on. I really respect Uswitch and Zoopla. It was a great time there, but I also had this consciousness that I will not be there forever. And on some point, I will need to step back and take another step. And that was obvious that, that was the right time to start building personal branding. Because when people recognize you, that everything is much easier and so on and so on. And that's why I was speaking on the conferences, I was meeting with people, I was spending time on Meetup and so on and so on. I was pretty much taking most of my holidays on conferences. I haven't had the proper holidays except of the once a year in India where I'm going with my wife, because first of all, I'm playing fair game. I wouldn't expect that company will be paying me for days I'm not in office. So I was kind of deciding to sacrifice massive chunk of my holidays and just take day off as a holiday, and I was going somewhere for a conference.
Mm-hmm.
I was even in China for 48 hours. Can you imagine this?
Wow.
I was flying, and next day I was returning next day because I didn't want to spend more holiday time, and I really wanted to speak in China. So, there was this element of maybe sacrifice is not a good word, it's too big word, but, conscious decision that on some point I need to start building this kind of personal branding, and then I will be in a good position to take consultancy step and work remotely and enjoying life with my little daughter and the same time, and my wife, and the same time making sure that, I can still work efficiently and I can deliver the best tasks, and I can deliver the best job that my clients expect.
And you've actually, Lukasz, you've actually started to answer my next question, and it's a nice segue into the next question. But I agree with you, is that if you want to stand out in the marketplace, especially if you want to stand out as an applicant, or if you want to stand out for potential future clients, you have to understand yourself to the point that you can brand yourself, you become known. Lukasz is known because he's worked on his personal brand. He's pursued speaking opportunities, and he's now leveled himself up to become an expert who, like I said, he's known in the market. Other than the speaking arrangements, Lukasz, how can you then build yourself to become, you've done a few years in agency, for example, one of the big agencies, or, one of the smaller agencies even. How can you build yourself to be a consultant? How does that work?
I think there is right now is so many opportunities. Aside of speaking, I think being part of the local community, that's very important. We always meeting on Search London, one of my favorite meetup, and participating on meetups, let's say around England, spending a couple of pounds for a ticket to Chester when they organizing SEO Chester, or Norwich when they're organizing Search Norwich, or even going to Scotland to be part, to exchange the information, and also to show like, hey, I am here, and so on and so on. Another thing, roundups, participating in roundups. This is a very good, like someone is building roundup. I ask 25 people about something, what they think about how SEO will look in 2019. It's very important. Another thing is, all these forms of activity online. We right now have a nice conversation, but there is also maybe not as nice, but also important, like webinars. Yeah. Trying to present own knowledge, own approach. And will not only work for SEO, any other kind of industry. So, there are people who are organizing webinars. There are people who are organizing podcasts. Become a guest of this podcast, having conversation that is giving additional kind of lift in this awareness. Definitely a website. Definitely, no question, this is a no-brainer, a LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is like the best social media platform that ever been built. In my understanding, like LinkedIn is here and Facebook is somewhere like seriously, like I was reading that LinkedIn want to make sure that in a few years there will be 3 billion accounts, because they estimated that this is the number of people that are professionally active. and 3 billion accounts. That means that every rickshaw driver from India, every fisherman from Poland would potentially have a LinkedIn account. And this is not a bad idea. You know, you could approve pretty much everyone who is professional. I know that like maybe fisherman is not a target for SEO, but isn't this exciting idea, you know? This is another thing when I'm getting CV, and that never happened these days, but a couple of years ago, it was like, do you have a LinkedIn profile? Oh no, I'm not using. What? No, how could you survive? You know, so I'm getting very often like most of my leads, because I'm also operating only on kind of inbound leads. I'm not doing outbound. I'm never approaching people like, hey, would you like an SEO? So all this, most of these questions are coming through LinkedIn.
So you're doing a lot of things. Like I think we've all fallen into the trap. There's lots of people who work remotely who fall into the trap of just being at their desk, or even people who are not remote, who are not working remotely, who want to level up and become a consultant. If you want to do that, you've got to do all those things that Lucas is suggesting. Your portfolio via your website, the webinars, you're learning, you're exchanging ideas, you're going to meetups, you're putting yourself forward for speaking gigs, etc. And LinkedIn, yeah, that's a big one. And any tips, Lucas, on? I know you said you're inbound at the moment. Any tips for anybody trying to leverage something like LinkedIn to find potential clients?
Yeah, so you see, LinkedIn, as far as I know, doesn't have anymore this policy that you need to meet someone in the real life to add him or her on LinkedIn. So it's absolutely fine to add people that you think that they may be potential customers. However, this is absolutely no to right after they approach, like they accept, approach them and say like, hey, because I'm doing SEO and maybe your website. No. You know, adding them, that's one thing. They will see your timeline, your feed, and then having a quality updates. So case studies, some tactics. You mentioned that you saw some of my videos. That was always my approach into sharing knowledge. I don't like to faff. I rather like to share some 3, 4, 5 actionable tips that someone can take it, bring home, implement, and say like, oh my gosh, I spent 20 minutes or 30 minutes on his speech or on his video, and that works. And even if the person who saw that on LinkedIn profile will implement by themselves, there is still a high chance that this will be a kind of trigger to contact person who wrote about that and say like, would you like to work with us, because we can see that your advices are very valuable, and so on and so on. Another thing which he also wanted to share, brand tracking. My name and surname is quite difficult and quite unique. Lukasz Zelezny. You, by the way, you said this very right way, which is like, yeah,
great.
That's like not I've been every other day Zelensky, Zeleny. I don't care. People are like, how should I call you? It's like, right, Lucas, Luca. I don't mind, but yeah, it's always lots of funny situation. And I'm tracking my mention of my brand, personal brand. So Lukasz Zelezny through brand 24. And I can see, let's say someone mentioned something about me and so on and so on and so on. This is another thing. You can also track some keywords which are maybe like more generic but related to industry. Let's say phrases like, can someone recommend a plus word SEO? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then in English language is relatively easy to track because there is not much there is no cases. Yeah. And like in some other languages, and you can set up this project. I have a project in Brand 24 since 2013 or 14, and every time there is an article or something or some discussion, then I can see that there was a mention and I can approach. I am also using this for a link building, so if there is a mention, I'm always saying thank you and asking if there is opportunity that mention of me could be a link to my website, and very often that works.
Wow. So again, I mean, this is not something you can do overnight. And I've had those people approach me and say on LinkedIn, and they 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 meet you on LinkedIn, and immediately they say, "I can do this for you. You know, at this amount of money." It's again, it's all about the journey. It's all about getting somebody to be familiar with you, to understand that you're an expert. Your timeline is important. Updating your LinkedIn profile is important. Tracking all those things that Lucas has mentioned. It's gold. This is all gold, Lucas. Thank you. Thanks so much for that.
I just wanted to add one thing about LinkedIn, and Alex, maybe you will not agree with me, maybe you will agree. We consider ourselves marketeers. Yeah, we are working in marketing. So let's make sure that we always doing marketing and not sales. When someone is approaching me and saying like, Lucas, we have this amazing marketing and automation platform and so on and so on. I'm like, no, it's not amazing automation platform, because you need to have a sales guy who's pushy and is jumping to everyone's profile and blasting like 15 years ago messages that we have there. If you're that good in marketing, you should find a way that I will come to you and say, you know what, I really like this or that. So every time I'm just giving a message that is a trigger to get some customers. I'm never approaching personally that or those people. I'm rather giving a message, let's say like, wow, after 3 weeks of implementation, this and that, I can see a growth on search metrics, and bam, there is a chart which is showing nice growth. And then very often there is like, oh, Lucas, by the way, we saw on LinkedIn that you posted this. Can you talk about this? Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, that's great, because you ideally want the inbound traffic from that content that you're posting, and you're probably posting that on quite a regular basis, so that you become more and more visible. And you know, you just eventually over time, it may take 6 months, a year, it may take even longer than that for you to get that inbound traffic. But I think you have to start somewhere, and you have to do it consistently, and do it in a way that is, by the sounds of what Lucas is doing, it's in a way that is giving. You're giving yourself, and showing that person and showing that potential client that that's how you operate. You operate from a point of view of giving, and not wanting just to sign somebody up for X amount per month, sort of thing, you know?
Exactly. And you see inbound traffic plus inbound leads. Inbound leads are much higher quality than this outbound, yeah? Because there is already intent. People want to approach you. And we were talking a couple of minutes ago about these people who are thinking to be remote, independent. You know, when they are very young and they are on the first steps of the career, and they working 9 to 5:30s, making themselves better and better every day with SEO, working for agencies or working for client side, 9 to 5:30, that's absolutely important to be there with mindset. But then you have always a couple of hours a week you can spend for yourself improvements. So these people should already, when they are 25, 23, 24, create own website, take care of the LinkedIn profile, take care of the Twitter, even Facebook, you know, be a bit more open, adding people on LinkedIn that they may not yet know, but they may have them in their portfolio in a couple of years, and so on and so on. Like you said, it's not like that. It's not like a couple of days and it will click. It's a journey. But if I would know what I know, being 20, then you know. But we learning, and like we were talking yesterday, the most exciting is a journey.
And are there any particular, I know you mentioned earlier on, when you're on that journey, you're going to probably be in, more than likely in an agency, because that's where you really sort of get the full on, you get everything, and you get to touch everything. You get to see social media, you get to see paid media all working together. Are there any particular companies that you think are going to really sort of are looking for SEOs at the moment?
I think pretty much all of the mid to the large size companies, and lots of the small ones looking. I love working with e-commerce websites those days, especially those that are on WooCommerce, because I really like WordPress. I really
WordPress,
like
yeah.
WooCommerce. Yeah, I have a little problem when someone is coming to me with some other CMS. I will not be mentioning which one, but you probably know.
Weebly.
But well, yeah, um, but um, but yeah, pretty much everyone the consciousness of what SEO is and how it works and is very high these days. And there is like plenty of opportunities on the market to get there. The organic traffic will be for a long time, if not forever, the cheapest traffic. I wouldn't stay away from saying free traffic, because it's you always need to do a bunch of things
Yeah.
to acquire this traffic. But I think, I was working in a price comparison website, one of the most competitive area in UK. Culture, by culture, UK is very good in this kind of like, let's compare the prices, let's find saving here, saving there. What else is there? Stop cashback, Quidco, cashback things, and so on and so on. It's very popular, but there is lots of players, more and more players. Only in the area of price comparison website, there is usage. Compare the market, go compare, Money Supermarket, Money Saving Expert, and so on and so on. Confused.com. So it will be harder, but I wouldn't be able to answer like this or that industry right now is looking. I know that there are agencies which are focusing on specific industry, for example, medical industry is looking for some good SEO advices. I would also say, and I have a colleague from Poland who is really active in this area, farmers, people who are working on the farms, creating dealing with this organic stuff. Beekeepers, I'm always saying, like, if not SEO, then I will be beekeeper, or when I will be retired. I love bees. I love bees, despite from the fact that one stung me when I was 3 years. Yeah,
They're
yeah,
very
yeah.
important. These are very important.
Yeah, but like this. So I have a friend, and she is administrator of a fan page where she's describing all these tractors and all that stuff. And I remember one day someone wrote her a comment, was like, all right, like, but what is this joke about? And she was like, what do you mean? I really like tractors. That's it. And she's really into that. She's also working as a PR manager, but also she got this kind of hobby slash job about tractors. And she said to me, you cannot imagine how many companies is there who are suffering that they have not enough support from SEO, PPC, and so on and so on. So, you can split this like that, some industries, finances, fintech, property industry, and so on and so on.
I suppose what you get is you get a lot of people going after the typical ones, like you mentioned, medical. People always go after medical, chiropractors and dentists, don't they? They always go after those areas. Perhaps they don't think about, farmers and tractors, and those may be areas that are, there's probably not as much competition in those areas.
It's more B2B. It's more B2B, but I think this quality of the leads would be higher. Working with a big farm or a big or a manufacturer which is doing some devices for feeding cows, for example. They have websites, they have potential. There is interest because this is purely B2B.
Mm-hmm.
They are selling stuff to some farmers, some big farms, and so on and so on. Then probably the quality of the lead will be higher than let's say like a local takeaway or local shop. It's still good. It's still business there, but obviously it's a completely different level of a deal and of the needs.
Mm-hmm. And just a final question for you, Luke, before we wrap up. One of the things that we have to do as marketeers, as SEOs, just generally in marketing, is we have to stay up to date with what's going on, especially because there are so many changes going on. Are there any particular websites or resources that you use to to keep up to date with what's going on so that you remain current?
Very good question. Thanks for asking this. I personally use LinkedIn and Twitter most of the time, but for someone who have more time, that's all about the time. If you have more time, if people have more time, then I would suggest to go to Amazon and see what kind of books are there, especially when people who listen us, some of them are just starting this exciting journey with SEO. There is lots of very interesting books that are yearly updated. So there is like 2018 edition, 2019 edition. Yeah. This is how fast this is progressing. I have a book written by Shari Turo, and probably like 15 years ago, and I can see how much that market progressed. Then you have lots of this news websites, Search Engine Land, Search Engine News, Search Engine Journal, SC Roundtable, Forum on Moz. DeepCrow is doing a lot of nice summaries after Hangouts with John Mueller from Google. So, Udemy. Sometimes there are very good courses on Udemy and for free. Not always, but sometimes you can find some hidden gems. YouTube. Lots of amazing advices on YouTube. People, if you have a problem, just type this to YouTube. How to reconfigure Yoast plugin when something is not as I would like to do. I'm just making this up, and there will be pretty much answer straight away. Mm-hmm. And Linda, which is another website owned by LinkedIn. I think for $29 a month there is a free access to all the courses. Not every course is that valuable. Not every course will be that kind of hands-on, if I can say it this way. But there is pretty much lots of materials right now and for free that can be used. And then everyone will find own preferences, what they like to digest, and so on and so on. So I think that way I would suggest to go.
So there's no excuse, really. There's just no excuse. There's lots of free information out there, or information that is relatively inexpensive. And if you look at it as, even if it does cost a little bit of money, you have to really look at it as an investment. And once you've invested yourself in that, you got to think about the potential for your career and what you could be earning in the future. So it's certainly worth the investment.
I just wanted to add one thing, maybe, because this is quite important. I also have this philosophy. When I was trying to learn Facebook ads, then instead of reading about them, I just put 300 pounds on Facebook and started doing lots of things. Lots of things. I haven't had even a product. It was not about selling that. It was about understanding how Facebook ad works. And then I remember that I also started using
for a last minute there. You said something about how Facebook works.
Sorry, I was saying that how Facebook works, and people can do probably the same with PPC, with AdWords. Having a voucher or like just topping up to 300 pounds and just playing with this. You will learn much faster. With SEO is a bit different story because you cannot pay, but you can spend some money on buying servers, setting up website, doing some optimization, buying license for SEMrush, and trying to understand this that way. On the other side, you have these free materials, so that will be kind of. I would rather suggest to spend things to be more hands-on rather than spend money on to be more hands-on than spending money on some expensive courses that sometimes repeating the free material that is available for everyone.
Great advice. Again, learn by doing. I think that's how I started out with my Facebook advertising. By actually doing it, by actually creating a mini product and seeing if I could, the quality of leads that I could bring through from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. And even with SEO, I started with my own website, like I said, to try and get consulting clients through who needed career advice. So, that's a great piece of advice, Lukasz. No, great one.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's only because you're asking great questions.
Well, Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. But it's been great. And I've learned, as ever, I'm learning from Lukasz all the time. He's somebody that you should follow. Lukasz, tell us where we can find your website.
So my website is zelezny.uk, but you can also in few days open seo.london, which will be launched in a couple of days. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter. LinkedIn probably is the best because if you send me a message, there is no chance that it will I will miss this or something. I'm always opening all the messages on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn would be the best.
Well,
and obviously conferences, London and Europe, that also is a great opportunity to talk.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to all those websites that you mentioned, SEO.London. I'll also link to Lukasz's website so you can see where his next speaking engagement would be and what he's up to. But Lukasz, again, thank you so much for your time and your patience. And yeah, we'll be looking out to see what you're doing for the future.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for everyone for spending this hour of your time with us. I hope you learn. And if you have any questions, like I said, find me. And Alex, let's stay in touch. I hope we can meet someday in London and have a chat in the real world.
We should do that very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.